The cell membrane is made up of a phospholipid bilayer. A phospholipid is a lipid made of a phosphate group and two fatty acids. The hydrophilic tails of the non-phospholipid make up the interior of the lipid bilayer because both water, inside and outside of the cell, repel the nonpolar tails. They are forced to the inside of the lipid bilayer. The heads are on the outside because they are hydrophilic polar. Ions and most polar molecules are repelled by the nonpolar interior of the lipid bilayer. Cells are constantly doing this to maintain homeostasis.
Gotta get my Fitbit in there.
Passive transport is the movement of molecules across the cell membrane that does not require energy from the cell. When there is a difference of concentration of a substance on either side of the cell, it is called the concentration gradient. Molecules that can passively diffuse through the membrane are water, oxygen, nitrate, carbon dioxide, glycerol, ethanol, fats, and fat-soluble hormones. Receptor proteins are all passive. Our body's cells must communicate with each other in order to coordinate certain activities. Cells must respond to important information and receive messages carried by signal molecules, for example, hormones and neurotransmitters. The cell membrane contains receptor proteins that bind to signal molecules, enabling the cell to respond. The receptor protein may cause the information of a second messenger inside the cell. The second messenger acts as a signal molecule in the cytoplasm. I think it died. Okay.
It did.
When a signal molecule encounters a target cell, the signal molecule binds to the receptor protein, in this case, an ion channel. This then causes the ion channel to open. Ions, such as sodium, then diffuse into the cell through the open channel. Most cells have a different kind of transportation protein that can bind to a specific substance on one side of the cell, carry the substance across the cell membranes, and release it on the other side. These are called carrier proteins. Carrier proteins are used to transport specific substances such as amino acids and sugars, which are larger in size, and polar, meaning they can't diffuse across the cell membrane. Cell surface marker proteins help other cells recognize their cell types. Marker proteins are attached to a carbohydrate on a cell's surface and can differentiate the cell types. Example, whether it's a heart cell or a liver cell. This is one of the proteins in the cell membrane that plays an important role in the life of a cell. Cholesterol is a very crucial part of the cell membrane, for they are a part of the cell's surface. Marker proteins will attach to the carbohydrate, which will help other cells recognize their cell type. The cholesterol molecules in the cell membrane will help the membrane maintain its fluidity and structure. The act of transport requires energy to create imbalance of molecules' gradient concentration. When sodium and potassium ions move across the cell membrane, this is an active transport because this process involves the hydrolysis of ATP to provide the necessary energy. Sodium is being pumped out of the cell, and potassium is being pumped into the cell to create a larger concentration gradient that can be used later on to power another type of transport. Botulinum toxin type A is also known as Botox. The botulinum toxin is a toxin produced by the bacterium Clostridium botulinum. This is the most poisonous biological substance known. Botulinum toxin acts as a neurotoxin. It binds to the nerve ending at the point where the nerve joins to a muscle, blocking the release by the nerve of the chemical acetylcholine, which is the main neurotransmitter controlling the muscles. It prevents the muscles from contracting. The result is weakness and paralysis of the muscle. Botox injections weaken or paralyze certain muscles and block certain nerves. This effect lasts about 3 to 12 months. Cell-mediated endocytosis is how the toxin gets into the cell. When the toxin enters, it binds to a receptor protein that initiates endocytosis. Once inside, it blocks the neurotransmitter, acetylcholine, from getting released through exocytosis. The toxin blocks the release of the neurotransmitter, causing the muscles not to contract, causing paralysis.